Welcome to the video, guys. You might remember last week I covered Sadiq Khan complaining about Brexit and saying how the government should extend it. Well, he continued that yesterday. Now, you would think after winning the channel's most prestigious award the other day, he would have actually piped down, shut his mouth and got on with running London, but that is not what he did. Instead, in his deluded sense of reality, he is actually the Prime Minister of the UK, and thinks his input actually matters in regards to the Brexit debate, which is not even a debate. Today is the final day that a Brexit extension could have been agreed, which it would have already needed to be done by now, so it's not going to happen. I will actually do a live stream in celebration of this, where we can discuss Brexit and what we think will happen next. Give us a little break from this crazy month and the agenda that the media has been trying to push consistently. Well, as I said, Sadiq Khan couldn't just pipe down. He tweeted this yesterday afternoon. No one anticipated that crucial Brexit deal trade negotiations would take place in the middle of a global pandemic. Asking for an extension would show that the government is willing to put the national interest ahead of political dogma. Well, it's too late for that. I'm sorry to say, you snivelling shitweasel. It's not going to happen, as I said a moment ago. And the article we got there is not something we're going to bother reading through. I covered it the other day, as I said. He's just trying to promote an article that he wrote for The Independent the other day. What we are going to take a look at, though, is this article from The Express, where obviously the British public are on the attack against Sadiq Khan because he's involving himself in something that has got nothing to do with him. You are not the PM. Sadiq Khan sparks backlash after Brexit extension plea. Sadiq Khan has angered pro-Brexit voters for insisting Boris Johnson should ask the European Union for an extension to the transition period. The Labour London mayor took to Twitter to demand the government request more time for free trade deal negotiations with Brussels, angering Brexiteers, angering practically everyone anytime he opens his mouth. He argued that when the talks timeline, which expires on December 31st, was devised, the pandemic had not yet hit. He tweeted, "No one anticipated that the crucial Brexit deal trade negotiations would take place in the middle of a global pandemic." And as I've said previously before, none of that actually matters. The government should be able to deal with more things than one. At the end of the day, how many people are employed at the expense of the public? There is absolutely hundreds of them, so I'm not listening to any of that nonsense. Asking for an extension would show that the government is willing to put the national interest ahead of political dogma. Former Labour MP for Vauxhall, Kate Hoey, hit out at Mr Khan's tweet because former Labour MP Kate Hoey is a Brexiteer and a very rare breed in Labour, someone who actually stands up for the people of this country. She said he would do better to concentrate on sorting out the problems in London rather than concerning himself with nationwide matters, which is absolutely spot on, but he will never do that. He is just a mouthpiece running around shouting it off at the end of the day. He can't deal with what's going on in London because he's an incompetent fuckpig, as we already know. She said, as everyone else has, "Please remember, you are the Mayor of London, not the Prime Minister of the UK, so please sort out TfL, knife crime, air quality for starters, and don't forget, more people in London voted to leave the EU than voted for you." Oh my god, what an absolutely legendary burn that is. Even I didn't know that. More people in London, a pro-Remain city, voted to leave the EU, then voted for this snivelling shitweasel we see here. Meaning, does he even really have a mandate to talk about Brexit in relation to London, since more people voted to leave than actually voted for him, showing just how unpopular he is and lucky that he got in. If the whole of London actually voted, then I'm sure someone else would actually win. Hopefully, something like that can happen next year and we can oust this stone-cold loser. Another social media user added he could also concentrate on stopping mass mob vandalism of the capital city. One Twitter user said if Mr Khan wanted to continue to poke his nose into the UK-wide relations, all British voters should have a say in next year's mayoral elections, and to be honest, I would actually agree with that. Being as London is the capital city, I think the whole country should decide on that, because what happens in London affects the entire country due to the amount of money that is made here. So even as a Londoner, I would actually agree that the rest of the country should definitely be involved in voting for the mayor. That would end Sadiq Khan's chance of ever getting in, that is for sure. Though I would agree with that, regardless of who is mayor, to be honest with you. He went on to say Khan continues to be involved in foreign policy, so the whole of the UK should get a vote on the mayor Once again, a valid point, something I agree with. And yet another said, "You've been hoeyed." Others dismissed Mr. Khan as incapable of sorting out the capital's issues. Well, that is just common knowledge at this point. Some even urged Miss Hoey to run for Mayor of London, which actually might not be a bad idea, because she could actually do it. You have to remember that Kate Hoey was the Labour MP for Vauxhall, a pro-Remain area where they still voted her in, despite her campaigning for Brexit openly alongside Nigel Farage, as you've seen by the pictures. The Northern Irish politician served as a London MP from 1989 until 2019, when she stood down. She would have actually won her seat again if she stood, but she refused to stand under Corbyn, and I respect her for that. One person wrote, "Kate, you're completely correct. You'd make a good mayor." A second tweeted, "I wish you would run for PM." Well, I'd actually do that because I'm not sure she would actually rejoin the Labour Party. On Monday, the Prime Minister's spokesman said David Frost, Britain's chief negotiator with the EU, will complete the Brexit talks even if he takes up his new position as National Security Advisor before they are finished, which I covered yesterday. Mr. Frost's appointment as the new NSA was announced on Sunday. The news came after Britain's most senior civil servant, Sir Mark Sedwell, said he was stepping down from both his roles after reports of clashes with Johnson's top political advisor, something I also covered yesterday. Mr. Johnson's spokesman said he's taking up his role around the end of August and there'll be a short transition period, so if there is a small overlap with the Brexit negotiations, that is possible. David has said he will of course remain chief negotiator while the talks are being conducted, one way or another. And it would seem he's actually doing a good job of that because we are off. That is the end of it. The chances of a Brexit extension are diminishing by the day and are almost impossible at this point. Of course, nothing is impossible, but it's extremely unlikely, like 1 or 2% at most. We have been very clear with the EU that talks need to be concluded sooner rather than later. We need to make sure businesses can prepare properly for what will happen at the end of the year. If the negotiations go on too long into the autumn, they will not know what to prepare for, which is obviously something I've covered and is just common sense. Well, it's only the start of the week and Sadiq Khan is already trying to get himself nominated for Shitweasel of the Week. I think you would agree. I find it rather infuriating that this stone cold loser is constantly going on about things that have got nothing to do with him, while he lets London go into the shitter. I mean, we all know how useless he is. Hopefully, the people of London will eventually come to see that also. I will do my best to make sure I expose him at every point and try and get as many people in London to see it as possible so they can vote for absolutely anyone else but this tosspot. Now before I go, remember the parlour links are down in the description if you want to come and follow me over there. About 9,000 of you have made the jump already, so thank you to them, and I hope to see more of you there in the future. But as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel, and my other social media links are down in the video description if you want to come and support me on Twitter, BitChute, and a variety of other platforms, including my second YouTube channel. As I said, all links are down in the video description.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going and we are glad to be going. We're off.